couple of years there where I was homeless with my mom, and we lived in a couple of spots right near the Sears. So I'll go in there and steal.
Yeah.
And I got caught stealing jewelry in there, and I did the run for it. And they caught me in the parking lot. Let me tell you, these fools caught me. I was running. I was juking them. I thought I was that guy. And I had a hat turned backwards. Yeah. It was like a Hawaiian floral pattern hat. It was kind of dope. Thinking back, like a leather strap back with the gold buckle or something. And I had it backwards. And I'm running, and this motherfucker caught me by grabbing the brim of my hat and pulling me back.
Oh my God. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to My First Kicks. This is episode 233, and this week I bring to you the OG, my guy, Damn. Ari. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
This is a long time coming, man.
No worse for wear. It was pouring outside.
Yeah, sorry.
Completely. The streets look like rivers. You know, those, everybody's seen at this point, those videos or like, TikTok, YouTube.
The two train flooding, that
just
one?
Flooding, yeah. I mean, it's every time we have a torrential downpour, it's like Dominicans uptown come out with the jet skis. And all the hipsters are just taking video in the L train.
I remember that with the canoe and like Dykeman.
Oh yeah, man, they do everything.
Yeah,
they don't.
That was crazy,
man. Anything, because it's sort of like the thing. If you spent any time up in the Heights or in the Bronx, even in Jersey with any Dominicans up there, it's a thing. Like once you get to a certain age, you better have a jet ski. It's sort of like, it's like you got to have the car and the house, but the jet ski is the real arrival.
I want to know. And
I've done it. I've been out there with them. Man.
No, you haven't.
I swear to God.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
I wonder how people in NYCHA are like housing these. Like, is there like they just leave it out in the parking lot?
I mean, everybody's got a cousin, an uncle, an auntie, and so they got a driveway, a garage, and that's how that's working. But I mean, I mean, you put the car out front, you got to floss with that,
right.
And you put the jet ski either in the driveway to further floss, or put it in the garage and pull it out for the flex.
Right next to the cloisters, just be like, yeah, we outside.
Listen, it's the craziest thing, the cloisters, man. Uptown, people, if you're not from New York, not that I am, but I've spent the majority of my life here at this point, where all the Dominicans are uptown, sort of like the OG neighborhood and the Bronx. I mean, there's probably more Dominicans in the Bronx at this point, but next to it is the cloisters. And for those of you who don't know the cloisters, it's this, sort of beautiful park that's up on top of a hill because Washington Heights is up in the hills, it's on the top end of Harlem. And so there's this beautiful space up there. And randomly, you walk through that park. I don't think they do it anymore, but I remember walking through there randomly, and they had like medieval festival.
No, I don't know.
On the edge of the hood.
Yeah.
So there's people out there LARPing, running around with fucking turkey legs and pickles and shit, and looking crazy and like chopping each other with swords. And meanwhile, right here, it's, everything you could possibly imagine about the hood.
Yeah.
In the best of ways. Like it's it's right near Dykeman.
Yeah, it's right next to Dykeman.
Yeah, I mean.
But for people, if people are not familiar with you, how about you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, I'm Ari Forman. Not contrary to popular belief, it's not Saul.
I thought it was Saul too.
Sal. No, that would be extra Jewish, I guess, right? Saul. That's like TV show.
Yeah, so Better Call Saul.
Yeah, but wasn't that based on an original on what's the? Does anybody know
Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
he's from that?
Yeah.
I'm the one dude that didn't watch Breaking Bad. I was in Jamaica, the country, not Queens. I was in Jamaica, the country, when they had the finale. And everybody was like rushing to find a TV because there was no link up. You know what I mean? So they found one bar that had the satellite.
And
everybody's watching it. And any show, the final episode is always trash. And I'm sure it was too, because it certainly didn't seem exciting. I had no context.
I thought it was a great finish.
It might have been, but
episode.
I don't know why I didn't watch that show. It kind of, I don't know. What was the one down in Baltimore?
Oh, The Wire?
The Wire, man.
Yeah,
The Wire.
I'm just going through that right now.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, I started from the beginning because I only watched. I feel like I'm like one of the people that picked up The Wire at the same time everybody else picked up The Wire, but they didn't want to go back. So it's like from season 9 maybe or whatever, when they started introducing like Marlo and stuff like that. That's when I started picking it up and going. Like I feel like that's the one that gets that part is the one. That part of like before it ends is where everybody picked it up, was like, yeah, you talk about The Wire. I don't remember nothing about these like first 4 seasons I'm watching.
Well, the first season is always, of any show that's good, is great if you're watching it then. But when you go back, you see how crude it is and how the characters haven't really developed. And some people even have different voices. Like they went from,
especially like, Idris.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's true for a lot of people though. I mean, you kind of, in a show like that, you find what your typecast is going to be.
Yeah.
You find out who you're going to be for the rest of your career.
For sure. And it took him a while to beat that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a one of one type of a show. There's a lot of things that are like it before and after, but it's really one of one. What was that other one?
What?
It wasn't as popular. I forget. Snowfall.
I feel like Snowfall was pretty popular.
It was pretty, yeah. I mean, it's weird because The Wire, there was only 5 networks or whatever, and Snowfall has come in the midst of streaming, and it's pretty accurate. I mean, I really remember that era, that crack era, very well, especially like this sort of micro blocks where people, where the fiends would come out, the crackheads would come out, and the dealers were, and my friends are out there and watching people's parents fall into that hole of crack, and
jeez.
And like, there was things where people were selling crack and their parents were smoking crack. It was a wild time.
Where'd you live during that time?
In Philly, in G-Town.
Yeah.
And I mean, Philly's still in the 80s in many ways.
Yeah.
It's weird. It almost for a moment had some real momentum. But I think that's what makes Philly so incredible, talent-wise.
Yeah.
And it's not a gigantic talent pool, but it's concentrated. So if you look at it per capita, the type of artists, the soul of that city is really unparalleled. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased. It really just is. I mean, it's like the 5th or 6th largest city, and it's really the last city once you pass the South, or the first city rather. It's the lowest city of the North, the first city of the North, sort of. But in many ways, in New York, where a lot of people's roots here touch the Caribbean, and they don't really have callbacks to the South the same way. Like in Philly, their family reunions are in the South still. A lot of people,
really. So
Philly, it's kind of like the Galapagos Islands. It really has developed, isolated, and people in Philly tend to not leave it.
Yeah,
there's the only reason that I left Philly was because my entire family was born in Philly. Yeah. My mother was pregnant with me and moved to Oakland to be a hippie, and I was born. And so it was like an eventual return to what is home for our family. But I think coming to Philly and spending my formative years there, but having been from Oakland and LA, it allowed me sort of like the mindset to be able to go, you know what, it's time to go.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think, other than that, I probably wouldn't have left, because almost everybody I know has not left, and they're not going to.
I wanted to touch on what you said about how the Southern roots made it to Philly. I always thought that the Harlem Renaissance, are you saying that, like, I feel like the Harlem Renaissance like everybody moved up from there? Are you saying people from Harlem moved to
No.
Nobody
went south. I'm saying like people in the South, during
I'm thinking more like, all right, we're coming up, and to me it's like, okay, Harlem
you got
Renaissance.
Stuck there, or you stopped there.
Yeah, I've never heard about the like, oh, we went to Philly, right? Like part of it.
Oh, again, I guess
from the South.
To be clear, and I know this is getting way off track here.
It's fine. I love history.
I mean, really, the way it was, the big city that had the freedom for Black folk coming out of segregated South, because even with, this is long before the end of segregation. Yeah, but it was a free city to the North. Yeah, comparatively. Now, it doesn't mean it isn't segregated and racist in its own ways, but for the most part, it's a much more integrated and liberal city compared to what was happening in the South, especially with Jim Crow still in place. And then once even segregation broke down, Philly didn't skip a beat. It was. There's a lot of stories, a lot of bad stories in Philly, a lot of racism, a lot of bad politics, but it was still freedom comparatively. And if you look at other immigrant communities, there's a huge Irish community, Italians are very deep there, and those people were ostracized, certainly not comparatively to Black folk. But,
right.
They went through their struggles the way that, the classic Protestants have always punished the Catholics.
Yeah.
And then when I was a kid, by the time I got to Philly, the Irish and the Italians were fighting. They're fighting in the streets. It was pretty wild. So, but even still, it wasn't the South.
Yeah.
It wasn't the South.
Right,
and it didn't have that, they weren't Confederates.
Yeah.
So it's I guess in America, you have to choose your type of racism that you're willing to tolerate. And that was better. So Philly, it's just weird. It really is this sort of gateway city, and it's massive. It's 1.5 million people. So it's 1.5 million. And there's just, it's a working class town. You got sports, you got your job back in the day, your factory job, your union job, and you got a little row home, like the things we were talking about in Baltimore and The Wire. It's the same development.
Right.
Baltimore and Philly share a lot of the same parallel. So certainly architecturally and texturally, but Baltimore was more, on the ocean. And Philly's up the river.
Yeah.
And so you really could just be a real working class family. And that's really what it is a working class town. And no matter how they try to dress it up, no matter how much they try to class it up, or develop something that looks sexy, it just never really works. People go out to one of the richest neighborhoods in the country, which is the Main Line, which is, right on the edge of the city, a little bit out, like 10 minutes out.
Yeah.
And so I think all that pressure, not to be cliche, created all these diamonds. And, you see that peak. There's plenty of moments in Philly history, music and art and dance and food, especially. But you look at that moment of Philly International with Gamble and Huff, and you see what those guys were doing. And I think that was probably the first modern, a look at how incredibly talented Philly is. And then you go from that, neo soul and hip hop. And
right.
Look at the Roots.
Yeah. I know. I was just listening to
Square Roots, as they originally called.
Yeah, busking on the corner. I just listened to a recent interview with Questlove on there, and it's like, yeah, I do just like, Philly doesn't get enough love, even though it's the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, well, at one time, I'm sure.
Yeah. But to pivot into my question that I've been wanting to ask you for a hot minute, which is, what's your first kicks? What's that first pair of sneakers you absolutely needed to have?
How the hell does that segue into that? That was terrible.
It is.
That's a terrible segue.
It's all, I'm not
cut. We got to rework that.
Nah.
But no, I took you astray onto this crazy thing.
All good.
And the first pair of kicks, I wish I could say it happened in Philly. I really am a Philly person. And, born in Oakland, but raised in LA till I was 12. And, everybody's heard this, but then from age 12 to age 24 in Philly, which those are really the years that formed who I was going to be as an adult, I think. And I really wish that the story of the first pair of kicks I had to have came from Philly.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And I really wonder what that would have been. By the time I got there, there was all kinds of classic things kind of happening kicks wise. But I literally showed up in Philly with a pair of Vans on. Not to be the cliche California boy, but
were they slip-ons?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were. They might have been checkered slip-ons. Might have been that cliche. It was 82, right? So that's like ground zero for that moment in time. But my first pair, I remember like Sears, and some of you might remember Sears. It's, if you don't dive down that thing, it's imagine if Amazon was physical. If Amazon was a physical place.
Yeah.
And you take that and combine it with like Zappos and, it really,
it was,
there's no internet, of course.
I used to hang out in a Sears almost every day.
You did that old?
Yeah, I am.
Damn, Jesus. You're aging well, my friend.
Thank you. Shout out to the Sears on and Queens Boulevard. That was
that had to be great.
that
Queens
was my
Boulevard.
Jam. That was my jam, bro. There you hit up the Red Lobster that was also on Queens Boulevard, or the Sizzler, which was on the corner.
Oh, Sizzler too.
And then when you done, I'd drag my mom and be like, can we go to Sears? And then I'd play on the GameCube over there because I didn't have one. I mean, not GameCube, on the Game Boy, the one that was attached to the stand or whatever. Yeah. You play the Game Boy because I didn't have all the games or whatever. Yeah, it was fun. Did you get on the bike on there? Yeah.
Damn, I don't think I remember any interactive stuff. I was in LA. I was in Hollywood on the Flatlands. I didn't live in the hills, Mm-hmm. Hills are nice, but Flatlands, the streets. Yeah, that's something else. But we had one right down. It was a Mexican neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That I'm sure was some kind of like working class or middle class white neighborhood in the early days of Hollywood. But Hollywood has been Hollyhood for decades.
Yeah.
And there was this big ass Sears down there, and whether my parents were taking me or whatever, there was like a couple of years there where I was homeless with my mom, and we lived in a couple of spots right near the Sears. So I'll go in there and steal.
Yeah. And
I got caught stealing jewelry in there. And I did the run for it. And they caught me in the parking lot. Let me tell you, these fools caught me. I was running. I was juking them. I thought I was that guy. And I had a hat turned backwards. Yeah. It was like a Hawaiian floral pattern hat. It was kind of dope. Thinking back, like a leather strap back with the gold buckle or something. And I had it backwards. And I'm running, and this motherfucker caught me by grabbing the brim of my hat and pulling me back.
Oh my God. Yo, thank you for tapping into this episode with Ari. And what do we say, Andy?
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to tap into my man Haas's Patreon.
You heard Andy, patreon.com/myfirstkicks. If you want to check out some exclusive stuff, we got 2 tiers, $3, $5. If you want this exclusive stuff, as you'll see, where I'm going to be teasing probably at the end of this episode, or maybe on the YouTube, you'll see some of this trip from Oregon, Portland. Wow, Portland. And back to the episode.
Bet.
I mean, I was a kid. He was an adult. He was going to catch me anyways. But that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Thank God it wasn't the days of like, camera phones.
Yeah. That would have made you would end up on America's Funniest Home Video. Yeah.
And he drugged me in there, and fortunately they didn't get the cops involved. They called my mom.
Yeah,
we played it up like,
I didn't know.
But I had been in there stealing so many times. We used to steal Star Wars figures in there in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And this was probably
if you held on to those now. You would have. I mean, I know you. I know it's dire circumstances.
You're trying to hold on to your health when you're homeless.
Yeah, for sure.
Not really trying to hold on to Star Wars figures, but there's a lot of things that I wish I held on to. Mm-hmm. I see friends of mine who have stuff from their childhood. I'm like, fuck you.
Nah, yeah, same. I think I threw away too much stuff.
But again, I'm dragging you in other places. That Sears is the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
To not the first pair, but I think Vans wasn't in there. Back when I was a kid, Vans were in their own stores, and they were called Van Doren stores. They weren't Vans. It was Van Doren was the family name. And Vans were that style of shoe that we now call Vans. It was like Van Doren's Vans, and they had other types of shoes. You would go into their stores and they just had a wall full of stuff. But I saw the early skaters and, the surfers.
Did you run with the Dogtowns?
I did. I did. My first skateboard, and I think it was 78, was a Dogtown. I had like a little fiberglass joint.
Yeah.
And that joint was
That's the one with the big tail at the back end, right?
No. This was the skinny Jones.
Okay.
They had like the big urethane wheels and the tiny little trucks. And but that was kind of at that cusp when they were sort of transitioning out of those slalom freestyle type dudes. And, like the classic, like long haired blonde surfer looking dude. It almost was like a layover of the 60s. And they were starting to get into that.
Yeah. The Christian Hosoya.
No, he was even after. He's from that era, but Dogtown set the stage.
Okay.
And then out of Dogtown was sort of like there was Alva, Tony Alva.
Yeah, Tony Alva.
And then Hosoya and these guys. Everybody was there.
Yeah.
But Hosoya is an 80s story where Dogtown is a 70s story that went into the 80s, so to speak, There really wouldn't be most of the things that we know if there wasn't Dogtown.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Dogtown was the hood down in Santa Monica, which is like when you go to the pier and it's very touristy, it's sort of like old Times Square versus new Times Square.
Yeah, yeah.
And but Dogtown produced incredible talent, man.
Super legends.
Talk about another, you know, something about that pressure, man, and poverty will create something that nothing else can. I don't know if it's worth the price. It's great for society or for the world,
right?
But the individuals, you know, I think that kind of stress takes a lot of years off your life,
for sure.
On the back end, you know,
yeah,
if you survive it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was about to say a lot of these people that are part of that just did not make it past like certain ages. So yeah,
no, I'm definitely suffering from PTSD and stuff. Yeah. It might not seem like it, but yeah, I'm under some stress.
Yeah,
some physical stress.
Yeah,
but I've accumulated way more stories than most of the people I know, unless they're, you know, crazy motherfuckers like me. And then, but so the van stores, I didn't really know about them because in Hollywood is interesting because I think most people nowadays, you know, we have we have social media. We really just have the means. The internet has shown us what Hollywood's like, and people kind of avoid Hollywood. It's kind of like the term you use in New York is like bridge and tunnel or something. It's sort of like people coming from other hoods to come party in this generic centralized place. But Hollywood is just been, you know, I guess at this point since the 50s, it's been Mexican, you know, and with pockets of white, and there's a black neighborhood. The original Roscoe's, when you think of chicken and waffles,
right?
The original Roscoe's is in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's not the one down on Pico that's down on the edge of the hood there.
Yeah.
It's the one in Hollywood.
Yeah, I went to that one. My first time going to LA, that was like the second meal I got.
On Gower.
Yeah.
Yeah, right off of Sunset.
There's like a sex store like 3 blocks down or something like that.
Yeah, there's probably one next door you don't know about. There's this weird little strip mall with the liquor stores, and it's like 2-story. There's probably a massage parlor up above
for
that
sure, gotta be.
But you know, it was this sort of thing that Hollywood was, and still is in many ways. It's just as much as it's gentrified or cleaned up like other places, it's just held that grit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Mexicans down there that got in on really cheap ownership, and they're still there, man. They're still there. Thank God they're still there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would, I don't know, it'd probably start to look like New Jersey, you know, like a suburb. I'm not disparaging New Jersey.
I'll disparage New Jersey.
No, listen, man. Like when you live in Philly and you live in New York, it becomes like a sport to disparage New Jersey. But in all fairness, landscape wise and what it offers might be one of the most diverse
for sure
states.
I mean, because it's a huge state.
It's huge, and it goes from cities to rivers to oceans, to mountains to farmland. I mean, they got everything. I mean, there's crazy crackers down there with Confederate flags. I mean,
it's crazy.
I mean, it's, you know, these are crazy times. Right?
I'm curious. So, like, you know, you start like at a young age, obviously, that you've witnessed the West Coast, and then you carry that over into the East Coast. But like, was there inspiration to start art at that early age, or? Well,
I mean, it's all part of it. I mean, the skating, you know, we think about, you know, my first pair of kicks and skateboarding. My mother, man, you know, God rest her soul. She, again, I was the last child to be born. So in that way, I was kind of spoiled. I think my oldest brother, he God bless his soul too. He's gone too, but he had it hard.
Yeah.
And I think he paid a price so that I could be creative. And my mom had wanted this. Her first husband was, you know, this really sort of oppressive Catholic dude, and he, they had it rough, and they were, you know, getting their asses beat in the projects. And you know, by the time my mother met my father was in a position where, you know, he was a softie. He wasn't a tough guy, and my mom could really just wear the pants in the relationship, so to speak. And he was able to give us just enough for me to just be creative. And so my mom was always coloring and making like decoupage with me, and we would make candles. and tie-dye, of course, it's that time of life.
Yeah.
That time in history, and coloring books, and you name it, just like anything. Mm-hmm. And my mom instilled this beautiful quality. I mean, she came from a lot of dysfunction, a lot of problems, and she created a lot of problems in us and put us through a lot of stuff. But that one really strong gift, that creativity, I was the only one to really get it.
Yeah.
My siblings experienced it, but I was the one that my mom could really focus on. And so that's, that art, crafts, anything, it really was just imagining anything and trying to create it. And I mean, as a kid, I think all kids are crazy that way, but I really believed that I could create things. And at some point, I guess that's supposed to go away, or at least it's not supposed to, but society strips it away.
Interesting.
And they beat you with responsibility. And especially me coming from the situation that I was in that transition of moving from my mother's life to my father's life.
Yeah.
That should have been there, but fortunately my father was kooky and weird enough that he encouraged it too. So I kept thinking crazy. And, I mean, it's the only reason you know me is because I dared to do what wasn't supposed to be done in some ways. And it wasn't like people hadn't done it. I just was some asshole that was going to do it in some other extreme way. And that creative Vans, coming back to my, my first pair of kicks, coming full circle, seeing these cats in Hollywood on the streets skating and, going to skate parks, going down to the beach. Vans was in the valley.
Yeah.
Hollywood, LA is sort of separated by these hills. And you cross over those Hollywood hills, people know the picture of the classic Hollywood sign. When you cross over those hills, you go into the valley.
Right.
Not where the Hollywood sign is, but in general, I'm saying. You go into the valley. And the San Fernando Valley was in many ways kind of like Jersey. I think, because it, Jersey City and Newark, but then it's mostly suburban. It really has grit. It was a complete suburban life. So once the car showed up, people drove over the hill and went into the valley. So it became the white flight area. And it's sprawling with malls and strip malls, and Hollywood is old, it goes back to the studios. So there's a lot of Hollywood that became mid-century, but a lot of it is old, 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
And so that's where all that was happening. And Van Doren, the factories and stuff, everything was not in the Hollywood area. Hollywood would be like Manhattan.
Yeah.
And again, the Valley was like Jersey. So I wasn't exposed to the stores. So originally we would go to Sears and get sneakers. And in Sears, it was like in that era, the shoes were, I vividly remember this, that they were doing these beautiful solid color shoes, sneakers. And they all had the Cortez shape.
Oh yeah.
But Nike isn't the inventor of the Cortez shape, and that's, again, me, I'll disparage Nike all day, but it's not disparagement. It's just the way it worked then is either everybody had the first sneakers like the Chuck Taylor.
Right.
And there was a PF Flyer and Keds, and everybody had a version of that.
Version of that. Yeah.
That next version was that nylon and suede Cortez looking type thing, which was this running shoe. It was like the athletic shoe. For Nike, it was like this waffle thing.
The waffle,
for Adidas and everybody else, it was this ridged sort of like almost Vibram looking kind of sole. Yeah. And so there's this, I remember going in there, this beautiful solid red and beautiful solid green and beautiful solid blue. And they all looked in that shape. It didn't matter, Adidas, Nike, they were all kind of new brands to most people then, as brand names, as it were. And so I remember buying, I think it was Adidas there, but that wasn't, I remember the colors hitting me, but it really wasn't the first pair I needed to have. It wasn't until I saw them dudes, those dudes that were in the streets with the Vans, skaters. And, a lot of the skaters, there were skaters that were suburban dudes, they were, and then there was the like Dogtown dudes who were just like gritty as fuck. Yeah. And Vans had the presence of mind to make a shoe that they sort of targeted at skaters. They didn't, I think that classic Vans era, which is also called the authentic.
Yeah.
It's the same. One has a collar lining and one doesn't.
Yeah.
That model there, I have ads that go back to the 50s of Converse with that same silhouette.
Yeah.
So again, here's the common silhouettes happening around.
Right. Yeah.
But Vans, much like most companies, is they put their twist on it. And more importantly, they use different materials. And when I saw, this was before, I think it was before the checkerboard. I think so. Yeah, it was. It was probably right before the checkerboard. You would go to the Van Doren store.
Yeah.
And you could buy off the shelf, off the rack. But you would go to the Van Doren store and you could custom make your entire shoe. This is before Nike ID or Buy Me or whatever. Oh man, you have no idea how dope it was. So let's say you take, there's no sneakers around here, but if you took the classic Vans, and it's pretty much 3 panels, right? Like you have like the vamp here, and then you have the side, and then you have like the heel cap or whatever.
Yeah.
Sort of different names for these things, but let's say there's 3 panels. You could go into the Van Doren store, and they'd pull out a sheet of paper that was sort of like your order form.
Yeah.
And you would look at this, it's sort of like a coloring book of like, you've seen people do it with Air Force Ones and stuff.
Yeah.
You're nerding out or whatever. Hopefully most of you didn't do that, but some of us did. And there would be these 3 sections, and you would go through it'd have these books of swatches of color. Like I think they're on rings, maybe. I don't remember. They were just
Pantone?
No, not
just
like
a regular
the materials.
Oh, like
so it would be like denim and this, and so it'd be the patterns, the textures.
It's similar to like when you go to like Nike Lab and like 21 Mercer, and then you did
40 years later.
Yeah.
And for them, because the factory is right there, it's American made, and for them there was money to be made there because they could just take these orders and have whatever, how many 10 people making them down the road there. But you would go in and you would say, okay, I want this first panel, the front of the shoe, gold color, meaning like a yellow, like a deep yellow. Then I want this one blue, the middle blue, and then I want the back red. And then the other shoe you could do completely different. And that was, even Nike hasn't done that as far as I know.
Yeah.
They haven't allowed you to customize each shoe.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they're not doing that at this point, they're just waiting for somebody to do it for them. I mean, it's just stupid. And so I would get mismatch, and the mismatch would be like, and I have a picture of me wearing these slip-ons with red, black, and red, and then black, red, and black, completely mismatched.
Fire.
And, you're 8 years old, it's like, yeah, you're a rebel at that point. But it was the excitement of the creative process of sitting down there and looking at the drawing of a shoe and playing with the colors and looking at, I'm going to get a Hawaiian pattern, floral pattern. I'm going to get checkers. You can mix it all up and, pay for it. And they'd call you and, whatever it was, seemed like forever to me. It was probably 2 weeks or something. And you would get it. And that was just, there's nothing like it still. Yeah. And I think anybody that dreams of making a shoe, all these guys that have done, bootleg shoes and parodies of parodies and parodies of my parody. And I think that's ultimately what it is. It's just satiating this childlike thing about you that wants to create what you make. I mean, look, to this day, I make my belts, right? Oh. And I wear tons of RL and Brooks Brothers and, classic. I buy the 80s stuff and the 90s stuff and American made, or, I have a whole collection of things, and it's not like low life type stuff. It's just a lot of it's old man type stuff, but the belts, man, I just don't like the belts. So I started making my own belts. I can sew in a straight line so I can make a belt, right? Yeah. Get a better machine, be able to sew leather, straight line. It's not like I got to cut patterns and make a shirt. So that process is like, I do think it's just like, I want to know where your creativeness comes from. My mother, that's it.
Yeah.
Encouraging imagination. Yeah. If you're lucky, I didn't get a hell of a lot from my mother in that way. And again, it's not to disparage her, it's just being real. Yeah. I'd be real to her face, and I always was. But that creativity came from her push to not lose that skill. Yeah. And most kids is grow the fuck up, get responsible. Yeah. And it's true. Get your job, focus. Don't you want to think about your future? Well, more and more, especially in this modern era with AI, and it's not enough to just have a skill, because certain skills are forever skills,
for sure,
and some skills aren't. And certain, crazy enough is the thing, we thought the robots would replace the working man a lot quicker than it's happening. But what AI is doing is replacing a lot of college grads.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A lot of people programmers.
Yeah,
which is a terrifying thing, because these people were like rocket scientists to us, who were artists comparatively. But now it's like a dual major.
Yeah, it's we're on an interesting path. And, I'm super big anti AI art, big time.
Oh, I mean, it's not, dude, you can't, I don't know. I don't want to disparage anybody. I'm not that dude. You know what I mean?
But I wanted to know. So like, as you get older, right? Yeah. So, you're pursuing art.
Yeah.
Right. In like high school, while you, like, are you still being yourself? Are you like, is people pushing back on you? Like, are you a tastemaker? Are you making waves? Like, because we know where you are now. We know what you've done. But I've always been curious about like, how did you continue to pursue that?
Dysfunction.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, I mean, it's the gift and the curse. I don't possess any practical nature, and as I have recently reminded people that are very important to me in my life, and they look at me and they're envious, and I look at them and I'm envious. And I think that's what we bring into each other's lives, is that, and the people who, like my father, who are just practical people. And in some ways I'm horrified by the prospect.
Yeah.
But I'm jealous that I missed that gene, that I just didn't grow up. And I think, it's something that you see in New York in particular, which is a city built on immigration.
Yeah.
And how important the immigrant is, the Italian immigrant, the Irish immigrant, the Chinese immigrant. And, the contribution of Black folk by sheer force, has made a city that has a people, different groups of people that are so different, but with a common thing, which is this tenacity and discipline to be practical and make it. And I'm the byproduct of hippie parents.
Yeah.
So nothing practical about that. That's I'm Gen X, but, it took the boomers to sort of create whatever the fuck we are. But I think most of us ended up practical.
Yeah.
But a lot of us ended up pretty fucked up and dysfunctional. And for me, I think just the sheer desire to create things has literally forced me forward into surviving.
I've mentioned this to you several times. You are one of my biggest inspirations into.
Thank you, man.
Into doing
that
graphic
shows
design.
You that he's dysfunctional too. If I'm his inspiration,
right? I finding your stuff super early on, just like when I was studying art and like trying to figure out how to become a graphic designer. Your art was the first things, and then I found the menthols. But like I've mentioned this to you before.
Oh, like magazine stuff.
And so like.
Man, you should see what you've never seen. It's endless.
I gotta see.
I don't share most of my shit with the world. You know that.
But I want to know, how'd you get to that point? I want to know, like, how'd you get to the point where graphic design wasn't a thing? Like we have artists, we have like painters. Pop art went crazy for a little bit, but like
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah, for sure. So like, how did you find your way in that space, especially when it was just like. Not really like early adopters were really
I'm
into
still
it.
finding my way in that space, at this late age, but I'm pausing because I'm really reflecting on this, man. I'm really thinking about it. It's a good question. It's a question I've been asked before, but I think hasn't been phrased quite that way. I firmly believe, and this has become more clear to me, and sort of like the people that I mentor and the people that have allowed me to influence them in their lives, and the community that I've created. That's, from people in their 80s, and I mean that literally, because my OGs are OGs.
Yeah.
And then, the people right before me, like, Future and Hayes and these type of guys who are like, we're all, in the same thing, but they're just old enough. And I'm not saying that they're my OGs, but these are guys that I respected and look up to. And I think we all have this, we have this common denominator, is that we're sort of post television, we're post industrial boom, we're the first kids to really truly be raised with brands.
Yeah.
With a brand name meant something. And although advertising is nothing new. I mean, when you go back and look at ads at the turn of the century, like the end of the 1800s, every surface in a city like New York was covered with advertising.
Yeah,
that's why the laws are in place that you can't have that much advertising, because it was just abusive. But what happened is it became relentless, where television came in and marketed to us, magazines, the streets, billboards, the experiential marketing, the guerrilla marketing of the time. It's this constant inundation of commercial art, of art.
Yeah.
That is commercial.
Yeah.
And there's then this other thing that is tribal, that is human nature. And humans have this thing where they just say things and they believe things to be so. And so long as they kind of pay off, then they perpetuate it. And, my father's side of the family are immigrants, long before me, but close enough that I could still experience that mentality.
Yeah.
Versus my mother's side, which is old Pennsylvania Dutch, Germans, and there's this, you got to be, I think for a lot of people, there's this, be a lawyer, be a doctor. Their parents pushed them that way, or be something, go to college. My parents, or my mother in particular, is just like, be what you want to be free, be creative. And there was living in Hollywood. Hollywood had, it was creative. Hollywood is there. And even though we're not part of the studios, I mean, it's not like celebrities are just everywhere or something. Right. And the hood certainly doesn't reflect that. But there is an energy. And I don't mean this like in the spiritual, like the universe is talking to me. There is just a tone. And the city is about dreamers. The same way that San Francisco is built on the dream of getting rich off of gold. Yeah. And the way that New York is built off of, the step into the free world, the new land, the place of opportunity. And it's not built on that kind of a creative dream or a dream of gold. It's built on a dream of prosperity. Yeah. The American dream is really the New York dream in many ways. And Hollywood is kind of a creative place, because you have Disneyland and you have Magic Mountain, which is now Six Flags Magic Mountain. You have Knott's Berry Farm. And when I was a kid, there's all these little pocket amusement parks, little carnival type things that were permanent. Yeah. And parks. And it was really a creative place, comparatively. Now, New York is just, I mean, for New York to exist, it has to be creative. Yeah. But out there, it was different. And even though my family were Philly centric and they were these kind of like working class, hard edged in many ways, people, I had this duality, and I was free to think about what I wanted to be. Yeah. And then more importantly is that I didn't have these confines of that I had to be, not only, somebody might have to get to work and get a union job or become a doctor or a lawyer. But for me, there wasn't like just be a fine artist, be a painter. Yeah. In some ways I wish I had that pressure, but it was just be creative. Yeah. And because there was all this advertising and all this marketing, and we're these kids that grew up in brands, and there was the art that we know, before I knew there was a Van Gogh, before I knew there was even a Warhol, right. Or, and there was no Haring at this point. Before I knew about these kind of guys who, or a different breed. Yeah. And, not Van Gogh, but these sort of like guys that were doing pop art, but then the famous art, before I knew any of that, there was no art history. My mom wasn't scholarly. I mean, she didn't even graduate high school. there was just the art around me.
Yeah.
And Hollywood was, billboards everywhere, and every movie premiere, because we lived right off of Hollywood Boulevard, and that was like, that's all
you
hood around there.
Yeah, you just see nothing but banners. And
oh my God, it was just the marquees. And when there would be a new movie, it didn't matter what it was, a horror flick or like a Clint Eastwood flick, they would do premieres.
Yeah.
And the lights would come out, and they would bring out props and cars and, excuse me, I'm spitting all over the place. Banners and posters, and they would do it up. Hollywood was the place where you had to show off for the movie studios. And they were doing it for each other, and they were doing it for the investors, and they were doing it for the executive producers. They certainly weren't doing it for us.
Yeah.
Like, how many of us were going to come through that theater? Enough, but all these things became the fanfare that they used as marketing to push throughout the country. And ultimately, it was the brag, it was the flex.
Right.
Part of the budget was the big premiere. And I just, I would go to Universal Studios, the amusement park. And nowadays it's roller coasters. So back then it was just the studio, and you had these like the Jaws ride or whatever. But for the most part, you were looking at movie lots and you're looking at, like props and sets, and it was all just imagination. And I used to come home and think that I could create, that I was going to build Disneyland in my head. And I was going to build a roller coaster. I was going to build a set that mimicked an earthquake and falling rocks and water, landslides and falling water. I mean, I was unhinged, I guess. I don't know, but I think all kids are imaginative, but I really tried to do shit.
Really
I piled rocks up on top of hills and would put buckets of water, lug buckets of water up onto the hill, and then I would pull a thing and push everything over and be like, look at that.
That's fire. I love that.
It was just nutty, it was nutty. And
did you mentioned the before Herring. You moved here before Keith Haring?
No, not here.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm just talking about the time before.
Yeah.
Keith Haring's a Pennsylvania boy. Warhol's a Pennsylvania boy.
Right, yeah.
And
my
Ari's family. I mean, the way people measure things is where you're born. I was born in Oakland, so I guess I'm a Bay Area boy. But I really just don't know anything about it. I love the Bay.
Yeah.
But I haven't spent significant time to earn the title. But on my birth certificate and your passport, California and the Bay, and I was just in the Bay, and I love it out there, man.
It's fire.
It's a special place. It's the East Coast meets the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, so like, when you moved out here, were you pursuing art? You moved out here for specifically to? You
mean to New York?
Yeah.
We're in Brooklyn, by the we guys don't know. Yeah, we're in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for 7 years.
Yeah.
In the 90s. Yes and no. We were creative as we could be in Philly. I mean, we were just doing, again, everything we were supposed to do.
Philly? Were you doing graph in Philly?
Yeah, of course. I was writing. I came from LA writing graph.
Oh, really?
But I was a kid, so I had nothing. I was like drawing a box. I was drawing like the surfer 3-point, S or something.
Yeah.
But I came from LA because my neighborhood, especially in those years that I was homeless, but even before then, was Mexican. And the Chicanos
they would
had, their graffiti culture is gang related like Philly's.
Yeah.
Like Philly's gang graffiti is came out of the gang culture. But in LA, it just predates New York and Philly that way. And that's like taboo to say, but it's not graffiti as we know it. Right. It's gang graffiti. It's literally
literally marking territory.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a calligraphy.
Yeah.
And they were at it before the aerosol can. And then once the aerosol can came, it sort of adapted itself. And there's the one photographer that escapes me that captured a lot of it back in the day. And he wasn't somebody that I think most people even know about. I think people in LA know about this too. But the communication between gangs and the way that they crossed each other out and the way that LA style developed out of like almost like a calligraphy was fascinating to me as a kid. And that was commercial art. It was they were advertising to me because I was paying attention and it was really to each other. But since I was on the ground in the street, I was seeing that. So I was trying to mimic that at 10, at 9, 10, 11, maybe even 8, I think. And when I came to Philly, I rolled into Philly, and Philly
had
developed its own style since the 60s.
Right.
And I'm rolling up there in 82 and it's like, it's so drastically different. It's a complete 180.
I'm trying to remember. What's that film I watched? I watched some graffiti film and like I'm Mr. Big New York graph. I'm like the best graph you can get is in New York.
He's biased to this.
Yeah,
shit,
you know, like
it's just not comparable.
Nah, yeah. And then I watched something and then something blew my mind. I don't know if it was like Dink moved from Philly.
No, Top Cat.
Top Cat. Moved from Philly here
and brought the style up.
Brought the style and it changed like everybody's letters for like a hot like.
And New Yorkers don't like to talk about that, but the old school ones, especially like Phase 2.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
You know, great dude.
Yeah.
A real historian, and he was one of those dudes that knew he was there.
Yeah.
And he would talk about it, and I don't. You know, New York has influenced the world in every single way. You know, let Philly have let Philly have what it has. You know, and it. Top Cat brought that particular style, but that style aged out. It aged out of Philly and New York because Philly was also really developing what became its signature, which is, you know, these tall prints that people see that are, you know, up and down, these things that dominate a space versus the New York signature, which was very pretty comparatively. In Philly, it was, you know, it was really about you had to own the space, you had to command the space, and if you weren't going to own the space, then you were going to do what we called rallies. I think some New Yorkers early on might have called it that too.
Rallies?
Rally was where you repeated your name.
Like cheese. And cheese will go straight like a whole
or just block. Like stacked even. It would just be like words in a book with just space. Your name.
Yeah.
Just boom, boom, boom. And the thing showing off there was to show evenness. To show consistency, that it could look like it was stamped.
Yeah.
And there were some dudes who developed their hands. You know, their style was based on the rally almost, you know, like, or they had a hand that was sort of fit one style, but when it came to the rally, they had another hand.
That's crazy.
And Philly has these different styles, you know, even going back to Top Cat, you know.
And you were part of that?
No, I came in 82, so I was after that generation.
Yeah.
But some of these dudes were still active, and this new generation was kind of taking over. There was some of the dudes from the 70s who were still active at this point.
Yeah.
And a lot of those dudes were sort of like semi-active. You know, some of those dudes got caught up in cocaine and then crack. Crack just wiped out a whole generation.
Crazy.
I don't know what. They keep making movies and TV shows and you know, glamorizing it and you know, the cocaine cowboys, but they really don't talk about there's an entire generation of people that are dead. They're gone.
Yeah.
And they're not here to tell the story.
No.
And everyone just talks about the dealer. And sure, that's great, but they don't talk about there's a missing generation.
Yeah.
They were the old heads to me.
Yeah.
Those motherfuckers are gone.
Yeah.
They're missing. But anyways, those guys, they got caught up. So by the time we were paying attention, 82, 83, 84, and crack hit, and by 85, you know, peak, that was it. Those dudes were gone. And now it was sort of left in the hands of people who didn't have the role models, didn't have the same examples. And there's a few dudes out there, there's a few people who were sort of lost like we were, but noticed and paid attention and went and dug up and found these guys, and were looking down alleyways where tags had lasted 10 years and 15 years and started to pick up that style. And you know,
That's crazy. They went that far back.
Yeah, I mean,
to get that style.
Well,
back.
Some of it was there, but it was disappearing.
Yeah,
you know, and you need these references, and you need these books, so to speak. You know, the black books.
Yeah,
you needed at least somebody's notebook from somewhere. But there were books that started to circulate around these guys. The Sam One was a crew, and
I was gonna say like that's similar to like Revs when he was like writing in the tunnels.
Oh yeah, but that was, I mean, Revs is an anomaly. There's no one before him like him and no one after him like him. I mean, he's a true Renaissance kind of an artist.
Yeah.
And he's an artist for artist's sake. That's a man who's an artist for his joy. And he avoids art for everyone else. He avoids art for consumption for the most part. He's not the guy that would do a gallery show.
No, definitely not.
He's the blue collar working man's artist.
Yeah.
If there ever was such a thing, he's it.
Yeah.
You know, he's working with his hands and welding and building
his
and
welds are
writing
so fire
and painting
Yeah.
and, you know, writing out a manifesto of sorts. He's just, there's no one like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, that's a School of Hard Knocks type of an artist. And to come full circle is to, you know, what you originally asked is that it's a generation, our generation, who at least had the opportunity to say, no, you know what, I'm going to be this kind of unidentifiable artist that's mixed media and has all these different influences, and it's hard to put a finger on it. And people could call it pop art, they can call it street art, and all kinds of ways to sort of separate it from the larger world of fine art. Until, you know, you're selling $1 million canvases that are pop art or something, or street art. But it's just art. Yeah. And there just wasn't a place for it. I think, you know, Warhol helped facilitate that with Brillo boxes and things, allowing some of those early days to say, but I think commercial art is relative. I mean, guys were painting churches and ceilings of, you know, of mansions. Yeah. And that's commercial art. It was just to look, you know, romantic and, you know, look like Renaissance type stuff. But if you have the courage to, or honestly, the intelligence, the ability, or just something about you says, I'm not going to be these things that are designed for me. I'm not going to become the artist, the fine artist that has been designed, that is supposed to be. I'm not going to be, you know, the type of doctor or the type of, you know, athlete. I'm going to be this other thing. And sometimes there's no place for that. Yeah. And you have to make your own place. You have to forge your own place.
And you've done that, because I feel like
I don't know if it's been successful.
No, come on, you gotta give yourself.
I have moments. Listen,
no, you gotta. In the beginning, I'm more of like that 80s, like I'm more like trying to pinpoint like that 80s transition. Yeah, where, you know, you were doing art, and you were creating for yourself at this point, right?
Well, it's not for. I couldn't draw. Yeah, I just wasn't. I wasn't somebody who could do photorealism. Couldn't do portraiture type stuff. I really, and I think anybody, and I have friends who, you know, they've just sketched 1 million times, and so they get good. There's some people. I had one friend, he's dead too. My name's People, man. He was a wild child. Yeah. But he just was born with the ability to draw you. He had no formal training, and he could just make a portrait look like you. Yeah. One of those motherfuckers. You know, it's like you hate those people. They're just so talented. And then there's other people, they have to do 1 million sketches to even be halfway okay. Yeah. And I wasn't going to commit to that. I wasn't even interested in it. I was a dreamer. So I was sort of like, you know, the executive producer of my own art. Like I just wanted to, I was dreaming it up, and I was coming up with the concepts, but then I kind of needed people to facilitate that. And that kind of makes you, it makes you feel like less of an artist, and that's a horrible thing. So I went to school, became a graphic designer, and discovered the Macintosh halfway through my 4 years in school. Yeah. And that suddenly was the tool that could make me look more professional. That could make me look clean. It could do things clean. And it could take my ideas and help me construct them. Yeah. And make sense of them. And so, sorry.
You're good.
I'm talking so much.
You're dehydrated. Good. We're also towards the end of the podcast too.
Oh, okay. Do you have a timer around here?
Yeah, we do. Okay. So as I said, but I mean, the listeners don't know this, but I do want you to come back in spurts.
Well, I was late as well. Sorry,
no, you're
folks.
Good.
It was pouring to my defense.
You're good.
My pants are still soaked and dripping here. My feet are wet and soggy.
But you have so much history within you. And so this is just the first part of many, because, you know, we only just got to the 80s. Like when you come back, we got to talk about.
Well, no, we touched the 90s a bit.
Well, we got to talk about more deep. Yeah. The 90s and deep though. But I do have a last question that I usually ask everybody every week too. And it deals with a little visualization. And, you know, we did touch on those slip-on Vans a lot during this episode.
Yeah, but they were also the lace-ups as well. Okay, I kind of blurred the space. But yes.
I want you to think back to that time where you're about to open that box when you were a young kid. And now you're you behind your younger self. What would you tell your younger self as he opens that box?
make something out of that box.
Make something out of that box? The
shoes
box
or whatever. Shoes or whatever. But the box is infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
The shoe is solid. The box you can make into anything. I think I was already doing that, so I don't know that I would probably just help myself do it better.
Yeah.
Maybe. The shoes, I mean, the shoes are still an unattainable dream.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's unfortunate. The money that it requires and the space it requires. And more importantly, maybe this ties things together a bit, is that people don't think outside of that box.
Yeah.
And they're really just looking at that box.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to me. When you think about even the menthol 10s,
mm-hmm.
you think about the box.
Yeah. I think that box is iconic.
I mean, what was I creating here? It was like, I knew that I couldn't create a silhouette that was going to be new
mm-hmm.
and people were going to embrace it. It was impossible. You can't, even now, people are more open-minded than they've ever been, let alone, 20 years ago when I did the menthols. And they're still not really open-minded.
Mm-mm.
You need some kind of, like, even people who have their own following, and are selling shoes to their audience,
mm-hmm.
are using it based on familiar silhouettes.
Right.
Even if they're tweaking it into their own imagination. And that's what all sneaker companies have always done.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're in this place where these companies will oppress you.
Oh yeah, big time.
I mean, this is criminal behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It would be flattering if someone could sell enough shoes to even make a difference to Adidas or Nike or, Reebok or whoever,
right. Yeah.
No one, even if you make $100 million, that's a lottery win.
Mm-hmm.
And you still are not coming to billion-dollar companies. But these companies, and I don't even know if it's the companies. It's individuals who are so excited about their jobs to oppress every little person.
Yeah.
So what does that mean when you look in that box and you see that shoe and you dream and you think, someday I want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
You're almost certainly will not.
Yeah.
And if you do, it'll be like me, where you'll have a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an incredible achievement for anybody who's done it. Regardless of whether you had success or if people celebrate it or not, it's an achievement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a modern reality that you can do it because of the internet. And particularly for me, it didn't come via the internet, but it's at the cusp of that.
No, yeah.
There's no social media. MySpace had just started, so there was
there's
no pocket social media.
I mean, I remember you being on the news with that, and I was just like, "These is crazy."
Yeah, right? News. Like now you're on TikTok.
Yeah, that's all you need now.
But again, I don't want to lose this. It's the importance of the question, and that is that somebody's going to make it through.
Yeah.
There's NBC, ABC, and CBS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got like HBO and, there's streaming, but it's still limited. The big boys are still the big boys. Paramount is still Paramount, right?
Yeah.
The Fox is Fox. And how is anybody going to compete with it? And people are going to. There's going to be the On Cloud and the what's the Hoka and
Saucony.
They're going to get through, but I mean, let's take a real look at that. Is that the dude coming from North Philly? Is that the dude coming from the projects in the Bronx? It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that don't dream, kid, but know that the box is more important than the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Because the box you can make and the box you can turn into 100 different things. You understand?
Yeah.
The shoe is still going to be the shoe, and it has to mimic. You're not going to get but so creative with it. You're going to be way more free with that box than you ever will be with that shoe.
Yeah.
And so I hope, and I know someday there will be another Nike that will come from somewhere else. But man, the brands are trying to keep you from competing with them and the resources that it takes. How many people are going to say, yeah, I built it out of the trunk of my car with a waffle iron. But these stories always have, like, my uncle gave us a $20,000 investment, which now means a $250,000 investment or something. And even still, you're not going to, that kind of day it's a rare moment in time, but the box is a canvas.
Yeah. Let everybody know where to find you.
On the street. You can find me on the street. I was, really heavily engaged in social media for a long time. And more recently, in the past year and a half, or maybe even 2 years, I've pretty much disappeared.
Yeah, you have.
And I think it was a mental health, and not because I was losing my mind. It just got corny.
Yeah.
And I felt like what I needed to do, I had achieved, and I didn't have any, it was redundant. I didn't have anything else to say, but I do have some things that I want to show. And so at the very least soon, you can find me, you can look at my arc. I have 1,500 posts, of which at least like 600 of them are probably this long. You know, it's like reading your consumer rights, or, you know, you're signing off your life here. I really talk about consumer psychology, advertising, marketing, design. I don't really talk about my own work, but I do have some things that I want to show. And so you can find me on Instagram. My username is Ari. Nothing else, just the @ and Ari.
That's yes, sir. And then I'm gonna just kick it off to me on my Patreon shout outs. You know where to find me. You know what it is.
Subscribe. Get on that Patreon, guys.
Yeah, hook it up.
Support artists. Yes. This is art too.
This is definitely art. I call this art. And so hit me up. You know what it is. And then I'm gonna probably do shout outs and stuff like that. Tossing it to me. Peace.
Hey man, thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. Thanks for tapping into this episode with Ari. You know, at the end of every episode, got to do Patreon shout outs. And if you want to also get a Patreon shout out, that's patreon.com/myfirstkicks. Got 2 tiers, $3, $5, $5, a lot more comprehensive. As you can see, I'm on the Nike campus right now, and the full vlog and experience that I am having out here in Portland will be on Patreon and only Patreon, and you can only find it on patreon.com/myfirstkicks. But Patreon shout outs. So shout out to Ross Adams, shout out to Adam Newstetter, shout out to Derek, Fresh Poetic, shout out to Jesse G, and MSR Adam Butler. If you haven't tapped in to Adam Butler's podcast, he brought back MSR Radio. Also, I got to plug that because he's helping me out, so I got to help him back. And if you're interested in more episodes of this podcast, check out these 2 episodes here. And you know what we say each week, wear your kicks. Peace.